Hey guys, welcome back to the Another Excuse podcast. I'm your host, Byron Greeley, and today's guest is Iqbal Ameer, the founder of Livescape, a music events and promotion company, and the founder of All-Access Anonymous, or AAA, which is a new company using blockchain to tackle some of the biggest problems that are currently occurring in the music industry. We have a really interesting conversation where we discuss how Iqbal became an entrepreneur and how he decided to start Livescape and All Access, the problems with the music industry at the moment, and how All Access is tackling those problems. And we also talk about entrepreneurship in general, how he keeps his ego in check, and how he's developed as a leader and a manager. It's a really interesting conversation. I really enjoyed this one, and I hope you do too. Enjoy the show. Hey Iqbal, thanks for joining me today. I'm really excited to get into it all, but I'm keen to chat about your new project, All Access Anonymous. But before we do, I think it would be great to chat about Livescape to give us some context. So, could you tell us a bit about what is Livescape?
Mm. Um, so Livescape is has been around for about 12 years, and we've been involved in the live entertainment space for that long. We positioned in Southeast Asia, so we operate in Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia. We do concerts, we do music festivals, we do gigs, anything that involves that is of experiential in nature, we're involved in it. And yeah, that's Livescape, and that's been my bread and butter and my big baby basically since day one.
Cool. And how did you end up starting Livescape?
Hmm. So I started Livescape from the back of actually another business. So I got back from a stint in Melbourne. Um, I was a Asian nightclub promoter there. I guess that's where I kind of like had the feel for doing events and creating experiences for people. From there, I got into F&B and hospitality. So me and a friend opened up a restaurant in Melbourne. And once we were done with that, we sold the business off, and then I came back to Malaysia. And in Malaysia, I still remember I was catching up with some friends, and we were looking at an ice cream truck. No, we weren't looking at an ice cream truck. We were looking at this guy selling ice cream from a motorbike.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and we were just like, that guy's got it all wrong, you know. He's trying to like force kids to buy ice cream, and we were just vibing about how if we were involved in it, we would have done it a lot different. And it sparked on to come up with the ice cream truck business.
Huh.
Yeah, so went about, got a secondhand truck, fitted it out, started selling soft serve ice cream. In various different parts in Kuala Lumpur. And I ended up in a big entanglement with Baskin Robbins at the time. So I basically, what I did was I actually parked my ice cream truck right in front of Baskin Robbins. And so I was basically trying to steal their customers. And it got really heated when I convinced a few of the Baskin Robbins staff to come and try my ice cream. And when they did, I took a photo of it and I put it up on Instagram. And then Baskin Robbins legal team got involved, and I got stripped of my license, and I had to focus on events. So that was the only way I could kind of sort of still kept the business going. And I started going to birthday parties. I started going for corporate events, concerts, and stuff like that. And then there was one concert in particular that I went to, which was in the Malaysian F1 circuit. Um, and I got my ice cream truck there, and I was serving ice cream to like thousands of festival goers. And I saw the production and the scale, and I was like, I mean, I did events, but I didn't do events like that.
Yeah.
And I was sort of like blown away by like how in the world could a bunch of people come up with something like this? And I couldn't stop thinking about it. And and yeah, and then from there I was like, hey, you know what? I think this is sort of like my calling, right? So So I sold the ice cream truck off to uh, somebody else that was in the food business, and took whatever money I had left and a bunch of friends and like, hey, let's just let's try and do this, let's start doing shows, right? And many mistakes later, tons of mistakes later, um, Livescape is where it is today.
Amazing. And what made you decide that you wanted to work for yourself?
Mm. Well, that actually happened when I got my first job. I was working for an advertising agency called Leo Burnett,
Mhm.
and I could not understand the grind. Like, it's long hours, and um, um, you're getting put down for trying to give out good ideas. You get put down for trying to understand certain things. Um, you're following processes and structures that didn't make sense to me. Um, and and then I realized that everybody was just doing it because that's just how it's always been done.
Yeah.
And that was not something that I could personally agree with. Um, and uh, and the thing is, I've had a taste of entrepreneurship before that. So, so I guess that also had a role to play in terms of like, you don't need to settle for this. This is not what life is. Um, and and since then, I was like, there's no chance that I could work for somebody else. I could work with someone. Like I've got business partners that have similar ideologies as me, uh, but I couldn't work for someone. Yeah, and it was at that moment. Yeah, I would think I was in that agency for like 6 months, and yeah, and I just couldn't. Like I just couldn't. The moment I woke up and I was like, oh my God, it's a slog to get out of bed and go to the office. Um, I was like, I couldn't do it,
Yeah.
and I have to say it here that I was pretty lucky because I've had that taste of entrepreneurship before. So I know that this is not the end of it. Like I can go and find something else.
Yeah.
I was quite confident, right? So, and sometimes a lot of people they get stuck in it because they think that's it. They have a fear of losing their income stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And just to put things into perspective, when you sold that ice cream truck and decided to start Livescape, like how much has Livescape grown since then? Like what kind of events are you
yeah.
guys putting on and who are you working with and things like that?
Okay, so we when we sold the truck, the events that we were doing were very small, localized, like club gigs. I think the first show we ever did with an international artist, we had like 5 people
Oh, wow.
at the event. Yeah, and then another one that we did um um when the artist came, we got our production all wrong. And he brought a USB drive, and ours was CDJs without we didn't have a USB port at the time. So uh, um, and now we do festivals for like 55,000 people.
Wow.
Yep, we also have an IP called It's the Ship, which comes out of Singapore. It's Asia's largest festival at sea. It has about 4,000 passengers on a cruise ship, and we have over 100 to 150 different artists that come and play on it. We've been running that for a very long time, and we've now expanded that brand into South Korea and soon. So Singapore, South Korea, Dubai, Japan, and Vietnam.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what would you say is the toughest part about running a music event? Like what don't the fans see?
Mm. Oh, lots. I mean, doing running an event, when I try to explain this to my friends, it's like it's not like you're opening an ice cream shop where you could you've got all these like outlays, financial outlays that you got to put up front, and then you every day you can try to improve on getting more footfall and improving your product and getting reviews and improving, and hopefully you reach a certain point where you just start printing money because everything is flowing. When it comes to an event, it's a start stop. You got like 3 months or 6 months or 2 months to from the start of announcing an event, selling tickets, making sure that you can get all your production to a respectable experience, getting sponsors on board, getting permits, licenses, making sure hoping that the artist does show up, um, right? And making sure
Yeah.
your tickets are selling well, and then just for one day that event happens, and then the next day it's gone. That's it, you know. Yeah, so it's there's so much work being put from the start all the way till the artist comes on stage and performs, right? And then when everybody leaves, you're tearing down.
Yeah.
You're putting down all the production stuff. You're cleaning everything back up. Um, uh, and and yeah, there's just I think even what I'm telling you right now doesn't even justify the magnitude of work and magnitude of thinking and strategic planning that goes behind doing these sort of shows.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't really give it much thought. They just arrive at the event, they want to see their biggest artist, and they go home. But
Yeah,
these stages and sets and stuff take so much time, and even making sure that, like you said, the artist shows up and there's a whole lot of like negotiation going on in the background. And um yeah, there's a lot that goes into it for 1 or 2 nights,
yeah.
and then it's done.
Yeah, and then it's done, right? If people ask like, then why are you guys like still doing it, right? It is because of that moment when everything comes together and you're able to be part of someone's memory where somebody goes, "Oh my God, that was the best gig I've gone to," or or they fell in love at that event, or they met like someone that became lifelong friends after that. These sort of things are really special, and these sort of things comes beyond the the financial I guess the financial upside that happens when doing live entertainment, because you can make a lot of money. You can also lose a lot of money, right? But then there's this one part, this feeling part, which is kind of difficult to explain, but everybody in Livescape has experienced it,
Yeah.
and once they've experienced it, they want to experience it again.
Yeah, that's really cool. And you mentioned there, like, there's opportunities to make a lot of money, but also lose it. And I'm curious, like, how has the music promoting business changed and developed over the years? How different is it now compared to when you started?
Hmm, good question. So there are mainly two things, right? So when we first started Livescape, I think now it's about 12 years now. When we first started it, um, these artists, um, they they're performers, right? They want to go up and they want to share their craft or expose it, and they want to come to new markets and they want to play, right? So they and these artists are also willing to try to make it work, right? Because they want to get into the gig, they want to perform in this gig, and they want to expose the music that they're doing to a new audience, or they want to go and reach fans that they have in certain markets. And that's because the majority of their revenues were coming from album sales, singles,
Yeah.
selling single music, selling albums, and all that. Um, these days, it's non-existent, right? The streaming platform Spotify has basically changed the entire game, right? And what happens is these artists don't make as much money as they used to through their album sales, right? And suddenly, the live entertainment aspect becomes a huge source of revenue for them, right? And then because they're performers, and now with everybody always having their phones up at events, right? These artists now are demanding huge production value,
Hmm.
right? Uh, and sometimes it's not the artist. Sometimes it's the people behind the artist. It's the manager, it's the agent, and stuff like that, right? Because they obviously want to prop the value of their artist at as high as possible, as high as they can.
Yeah.
So what happens is these production costs go up. Artists want to make more money, so those prices go up. And as a promoter, as an event organizer, your profits are now diminished, right? They come in, they go less and less and less and less. You'd be lucky to walk away with like 8% these days.
Wow.
Yeah, and you used to walk away with an upside of maybe 60%.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's very significant, right? And the really sad thing here is that the event organizer, the promoter, they can only take so much. They can only absorb so much of the risk, and eventually they will have to put it on to the ticket buyer, right? And then the ticket buyer has to pay in excess of hundreds of dollars for a show now,
Yeah.
right? Um, not knowing where that money actually is going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense. And that actually leads me to my next question, which is you're kind of tackling this problem with All Access Anonymous or AAA.
yeah.
So could you speak to like what is AAA and how it works?
Mm. Well, the best way to talk about all access is to talk about the problem, right? So, like what I mentioned earlier, right, about these costs going up and stuff like that. Like how how do you how do you make sure that as an event organizer, as an artist, as a venue, you can place the right bets, right? In business, in events, in everything, it's about placing the right bets,
Yeah.
right? More often than not these days, the live entertainment industry is placing more wrong bets than right bets. And the problem here is because of data, right?
Seriously?
We just don't have the right data sets or the data points, right? Um, for example, Livescape, we have over 600,000 people in our database, right? Um, but it doesn't mean that these 600,000 people are the right audience for me to sell a certain show, right? So if I'm having that problem as a promoter, imagine every other promoter out there, they've got the same problem, right?
Yeah.
And these data points are not authenticated, which makes it even harder. Um, and these data points also don't talk to each other. So an artist has his own data. Venues have their own data. Ticketing companies have their own data. Event organizers have their own data. But we're not sharing that data, and their data doesn't talk to each other, and um, it's not always updated, right? So what happens is that we're using different metrics to value prices of artists, right? So, I would be looking at um, Oasis, for example, right? And I think Oasis is the wrong one because Oasis is a legendary act. Dua Lipa, right? I would look at Dua Lipa, for example, and I would be shown the Spotify streaming data, the fan base, the Instagram followers, the Twitter handles. I'm showing all look at all these data, and they would be in the millions, right? But that doesn't justify how many tickets Dua Lipa can sell.
Hmm.
And what happens is that if I'm looking at the wrong set of data, basically overpaying regardless of whatever I feel it is, right? And and then if I make these bad decisions, it's going to be very difficult for me to monetize as an event organizer, right? And
Yeah.
and what I'm saying here isn't a theory, like this thing is real, right?
Yeah.
Like yeah, Jennifer Lopez canceled her entire tour
Yeah.
in the States, right? She canceled it I think less than a month after going on sale, right? And it's because she was booking out stadiums and her, she didn't have that kind of fan base. They were willing to pay that kind of ticket price and fill up these stadiums, right?
Yeah.
In the UK, I think now it's over 60 music festivals, independent music festivals that have just canceled because they have the wrong data sets. They can't make the right decisions. They put these shows out and they don't sell tickets, and then they've got to close. Um, so these things are already happening, and being in the live entertainment industry, I know that every event organizer and every promoter is having this problem.
Yeah.
What is very interesting is artists are also having this problem.
Mm.
So we've done a couple of shows recently, and one of the recent shows we had was with an artist, Alan Walker, and believe it or not, these artists they don't have they've not fine-tuned what their data sets are. They have a mailing list, right?
Hmm.
And everything else is on Facebook or on Instagram, but they don't know who's the number one fan. They don't know who the top fans are. They don't know who are the fans that are actually going to buy tickets for their shows all the time or going to buy that much. They don't know,
Yeah.
right? And then when they don't know, they also can't monetize, right? From their fan base. So yeah.
And so just to go into that a little bit deeper, like what does All Access do, or like what sort of features
Mm.
does All
Yeah.
Access have to solve this problem?
Yes. So yeah. Thanks for that. So so
Mm.
I so, so I've given sort of the context of the big problem, right? Um, and what All Access does is we authenticate uh, fan data, right? For events, concerts, and music festivals. And how do we do that? We authenticate it by basically providing a gamified experience for fans. It's a very simple web app where these where fans can basically get on and they can basically participate in quests where they can play games, they can answer questions, they can put up UGC content, user-generated content in return for points. And why are they doing this is because they can use these points to basically upgrade their event or festival experience, right? So they could get a VIP ticket upgrade. They could get a backstage pass. They could get um, a meet and greet with the artists, autographed merchandise, free drinks, free food, a whole bunch of stuff, right? But what's happening on the back end is that we're tracking all these data points, and we're knowing that the fan is doing what for what reward. And we are authenticating this fan by going, hey, look, this particular fan is doing these quests and redeeming this. So we can hypothesize that this fan could be a top 1%, right? And then once we authenticate this, we put it on the blockchain.
Yeah.
So the fan data is now authenticated and it's on the blockchain. That means no one can tamper with it, right? It's truth. And then now it becomes very attractive for the entire industry because now artists can access these fans, venues, other event organizers, sponsors. They can now look at these data sets, and then from there, they actually have proper data that they can use to decide or what their next business decisions should be.
Awesome. Um, and why is storing that data on the blockchain so important?
Mm. Right now, there's no one database that everybody can agree with, right? And as an event organizer, if let's say Coachella were to contact me tomorrow and go, hey, can I can I have all of Livescape's database? Of course, I'd be like, are you crazy? No, it took me years to build this, right? But the same thing if I go to Coachella as well, right? But there is value in us sharing our data. There is value because we both get to understand our customers better, right? So by putting it on the blockchain, you don't need a third party to verify it because the blockchain verifies the data, uh, 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 and it is immutable, right? That means it is authentic. This is what happened, and this is what the data says. And it's the only way that you can get an entire industry together to recognize that this is accurate fan data without having to depend on an independent third party.
Yeah, that
You
makes
know?
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, even these days, you have companies that are like, oh, I'm using this accounting firm, and that's why my books are clean, right? But we know it's not. So, you know what I mean? Even these days,
Yeah,
the biggest accounting firms in the world, they still don't not exactly the best, right? And when you do it this way on the blockchain, no one can say anything, right? And I feel that this is the best way to understand fans and the best way for artists to understand that event organizers, and we can actually really see what the true value of this market is.
yeah, that makes sense. And is it sort of a quid pro quo agreement? So, in order to get access to the data, you need to give up your data and
Yes.
contribute. Okay.
Yes, exactly that. So we have a solution. This gamified web app is it's actually pretty good. Like we've been testing it in stealth across 4 music festivals, and engagement is like at 86%. The
Well,
average person spent more than 4 minutes on the web app, which is most than most apps that are on the web store on the app store right now. And we actually see these interactions in real time, right? And what happens is that because the fans are want to redeem these rewards, they're willing to participate and they are willing to share their data, but they're also willing to like spend for points, right?
yeah,
So they're willing to go and buy drinks, they're willing to go and buy food, and basically accrue more and more points. And it helps the event organizers, right? Because not only are they understanding the fan data, but they're also seeing an uptick in their revenue, right? So we have a web app now that event organizers or festival organizers want to use because it helps them solve a problem, right? It increases their revenue and it's also a net saving on their marketing budgets, right?
yeah,
Because you can use fans to help you market, right? That's another quest where fans can market your event for you, and that way you don't need to spend more money marketing, right? So on one side we have a web app that event organizers want to use, and at the same time by them using it, they're getting access to this a unified depository of fan data that they can access, but other people can access as well. So I think it's a win-win-win.
yeah. It seems that way because also for the fans, I mean, doing a few quests and getting to meet your favorite artist is like once in a lifetime type opportunity, but you're also in control of it. It's not just luck. It's like you can, if you are a top 1% fan of that particular artist, you can do everything in your power to actually try meet that person. Um,
Yeah,
and
correct.
then it makes that particular event way more memorable for you that like you can't put a price tag on those type of experiences if you are a huge fan of an artist.
Yeah, so for example, Daniel was one of the guy. He was like one of the top 1% at this Alan Walker event that we did
Mhm.
recently, right? Um, and him alone convinced about 35 of his friends to buy tickets for the show, right? And 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 that's true, like just him wanting to get more points,
Yeah,
right? Um, Yeah, we had another one where we had this guy who spent in excess of 400 US dollars in drinks because he wanted to get more raffle tickets because his girlfriend wanted to meet a certain artist. And he didn't even win it, right? But we now have this data point, right? I mean, hey, look, this guy did this to try and redeem this, you know? Yeah,
yeah. And like you have that data point. So even if he doesn't win, you know that he's or his girlfriend is a diehard fan. So down the line, if the opportunity comes about, you can reward him in some other way because it's actual
exactly.
data. Because if it was just a random raffle, you wouldn't be storing that data anywhere. And so you wouldn't have
Yeah,
even known. You would have just tracked that you maybe made more profit on drinks because people were incentivized, but you wouldn't have known that particular guy was
exactly.
motivated. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So it's really interesting. It's also interesting to see what fans do and how creative they do to go to have an opportunity to meet their favorite artists. Uh, um, um, and And it's a lot of fun. The thing is, it's a lot of fun, right? So instead of us like throwing money at Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and hoping that we hit a ticket sale, which is so transactional, we're now hustling and brainstorming and coming up with new cool quests that we can get these guys to participate in and get rewards, Um, I think one of the other ones that we did was show us how much you wanted to meet the artist, right? And put it up on social media, right? And tag it. And we had a lot of different fans coming up with really, really creative stuff, right? And just for them posting it, they already get points. And then the winner gets more points, right? And they're just one step closer to reaching these goals.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Um,
Yeah.
so we've touched on the problem, and it's a big problem to tackle. But why you? Like, why did you decide to tackle this problem head on?
Mm. So why it was actually because of the pandemic. So when the pandemic happened, um, all entertainment companies, all event companies, we were the first that were asked to close, and we were the last that were allowed to open, right? And you know, and it's tough because we are in the business of basically bringing people together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So during that time, I was able to basically speak to a lot of event organizers and promoters that were basically at that point in time out of a job, right? They were out of a job and they had all the time in the world, and I was able to basically reconnect and talk to them, and it was it was pretty surreal because we got we all of us got to talk, right? And these are even event organizers that were competitors with each other, right? Not never ever spoken to each other before, right?
Yeah.
It was sort of like Alcoholics Anonymous meetup, and as and to be honest, during that time, it's pretty bleak because you don't know when you're going to be allowed to open, right? And everybody starts fearing for the worst, and like, oh my God, my dreams and everything that I've built to this moment is going to go, right? So at that point in time, everybody was sharing their worries, and I had this huge need or want to go like, this is an industry that I love so much, and I can't afford to see it just evaporate in front of my eyes. Um, Now what happened was I started to realize that a lot of the event organizers and promoters were saying the same thing,
Hmm.
and the same thing was basically they don't have the right data. They're putting out the wrong offers. They basically every time they put in an offer for an artist, they're going to a casino, you know, and and big entertainment conglomerates like Live Nation or AEG. These guys are they're monopolistic in nature, and they continue to eat up all these small, independent, hardworking organizers because these organizers don't have a choice, and they consistently get bullied by these guys. And again, I've had my fair share of interactions with both Live Nation and AG, so I'm pretty aware about how difficult it can be.
Hmm.
So since then, I was just on a path to figure it out, right? And so happened to be like during that time, there was all this craze about NFTs going for thousands of dollars, and you could get a picture of a monkey, and it'd be
Yeah.
$1 million and something like that. And obviously, at that point in time, everybody looks into it, right? Because wow, you can make life-changing money, right? And what happened was I started to understand the tech behind it, and I started to understand the importance of community and the importance of tracking things on chain, and the fact that it's immutable. And then my brain went into overdrive. Yeah, so for like 2 days straight after that, I wrote a document, which was it's a light paper basically on what the idea is,
Hmm.
and then I just started trying to find someone that could translate what I'm trying to do. And then I met my co-founder. And he was consulting for Boeing at that time, for blockchain applications for for Boeing. And yeah, and from there we just started to build and build and tweak and make mistakes and build again, and yeah, and ever since then I've never looked back.
Awesome. Yeah, I had similar realizations when I started looking into the space, after the like NFT hype too, and um seeing the potential, and like there's always a hope for companies like All Access, because you can see there's like a real use case aspect where it's like Web3 tech combining with a Web2 problem, and it's actually solving a problem and making people's lives better. Um, but at the moment, I still feel like there's a bit of a problem with the space where like all the meme coins and all that stuff are still getting way too much attention than they deserve. And I was just wondering what your sort of view on that is.
Yeah, you know, let me tell let me tell you what it shows.
Hmm.
It shows that people are desperate,
Yeah.
right? The only reason why people are doing it is because they're desperate, and they think that money can solve it,
Hmm.
right? And look, I'm not saying that money can definitely solve a lot of things, right? Um, but it just shows the sheer amount of desperation that we have in the world right now. That people are willing to put their hard-earned money in something that they don't know if it's going to work or not, right? Um, and look, I dabble in meme coins myself, right? But I dabble in them for fun,
Yeah.
right? In the sense of like, I got a few friends now, and they were like, "Hey, check this out," and then you look at it and you go, "Hey, you know what? It could," right? And okay, so I'll put a bit of money in, right? But it's not my entire portfolio's worth, and the thing is, you're seeing all these people do it, uh, 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 and it's only going to cause more and more attention to this space. Um, and but I still feel that this is just part of it,
Hmm.
right? Look, there is real value in certain meme coins, real value, right? There are certain projects that have come out of it and built massive communities, and then decided to then empower these communities and do things like sort of like what NFT projects were before, right? Like I remember one of the first NFT that I bought was an NFT called Oniforce,
Hmm.
and it was a Japanese manga inspired NFT, and I really loved the community there because everybody was into the same things I was into, right? And I made a lot of friends there, right? And now meme coins is doing the same thing, but certain meme coins, right? Uh, so those ones, great, right? But the current landscape of where we're at, where everybody's just talking about it, is because everybody's just trying to make generational wealth overnight, right? And you and I both know that it's not going to happen,
Yeah.
right? Even if you did, even if today, I don't know, I put $100 in something, and I woke up tomorrow and it gave me $12 million,
Yeah.
right? It just if I made that much money that fast, I will
Hmm.
lose it the next day because I do not know what that means and
Yeah.
think I can do it again, right? Everybody's the hero of their own story, right?
Definitely.
So yeah, so it's not, it I'm very sure it's people are gonna realize it, and then they're gonna stop. And then the blue chip ones will continue to thrive because they're adding real value. And then people will start looking at projects with real utility.
Hmm. And but do you think that people losing a shit ton of money in meme coins and stuff can put a bitter taste in a lot of people's mouths and sort of put them off Web3 in general, and sort of harm the progress of the space, or even slow down progress because of that? Or do you think it won't have that much of an impact in the long term?
I don't think so. I think it's probably going to help you with the scar tissue that you need in order to then learn from your mistakes
Hmm.
and then get into it again and then start looking at the tech and start looking at real projects and then understand and realize that it allows you to get into real projects early, right? And earn the benefits of what Wall Street gets, you know? And now anyone can do it, right? And I think there's a lot of value there,
Hmm.
you know? There's a lot of value of there's a protocol on Avalanche. I can't remember the name of it, but it basically allows people who have certain certain legal troubles. They can put out what their legal trouble is and what are the lawyer fees that are required, and you can read it up. And if you go, hey, you think that this person has a valid case, you can actually back that person and with money. And if that person raises enough money, they can then hire a good lawyer and try to win this case. And whatever money that they win, it's divided accordingly back to the people who contributed, right? Like I think that's so novel and so good because then it doesn't mean it doesn't mean that it just because you're very rich and you did something wrong, you can get out of it, right? Because now the person on the other side also has the chance to play an equal level playing field, right? Like
Yeah.
those are really cool applications using blockchain, right? And I think eventually people are going to see that, and then they're going to understand that these sort of things are a lot more sustainable, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That is a really cool use case. There's so many of those sort of use cases springing up where it's just applying it to different industries and it just makes everyone's lives so much better.
Yeah, so even like, have you heard of um DeSci, like decentralized science?
No, I
Have you ever
haven't.
read about it? Yeah, so basically, um scientists, right? They when they want to do research, right, they need to raise money
Yeah.
to fund their experiments, to fund their thesis. The only way they can sort of get these sort of grants is either from the government, which we all know governments are, it's going to be really difficult to get money from the government, all right? Or from lobbyists, right? So then what happens is that scientists have to apply for a grant so that they can continue to pay themselves and also do research, but they're doing research to find out on how harmful is tobacco for your body,
Yeah.
and it's actually being paid by Marlboro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So all these science papers are skewed, and then they become government regulated because and governments go, oh, because of all these science papers, we're gonna now make it's okay for a 16-year-old to smoke, for example, right? And then the company wins at the end of the day, right? And it's dampened research. It's dampened science and moving forward with this. So now what's happened is there is this thing which is decentralized science, where now they're saying, hey, look, I have done this research and I think I can come up with this particular vitamin that is going to be 10 times better than big pharma, right? And then people can basically back that person to go and come up with the paper, right? And then they would earn a share if this person was able to produce it, right? And again,
Yeah.
pharmaceuticals is trillions of dollars, right? You know, but then now you can actually look through it. You can do your own research. You can say, hey, you know what? I think this guy is something novel, and you can back that person up.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because you
Yeah,
hear all the big established industries and businesses in those industries, like big pharma, and the motor industry. Like in the early days when electric cars were created by like one guy in his garage, and they'd buy up that company and then do nothing with the tech. And in
yeah,
big pharma, there's like, I don't know, you read news about like a cancer cure or something, and then that
yeah,
guy vanishes and his business is
yeah,
gone, and
yeah.
nothing happens with that
Exactly,
discovery. So yeah,
exactly.
that
Yeah.
yeah,
So even for all access. we see somewhere down the line where we can get um, artists or festival brands to basically use All Access as a launch pad for fans to basically front run the funding that's required in order to do these big shows or even to experiment, right? Because sometimes somebody could say, "Hey, look, I've got an idea for this sort of event," or an artist says, "Hey, I've got a concept for a show. It's going to cost a lot of money." And now they can actually use All Access as a launch pad where they can go reach out to fans, and fans can go, all right, if I help front run this artist in 6 months, I'm guaranteed a ticket,
Yeah.
right? And maybe I'm in a running to meet the artist or get a merch or something, right? And then they could use those funds to produce the content for the fan,
Yeah.
right? And you bypass everything. You bypass the bank, you bypass the ticketing company that wants to charge you $22 for a ticketing fee, you bypass the agent who wants to charge 20% for the booking fee, you bypass everyone, right?
Yeah.
Because you're creating content for the fan. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'd like to shift gears a bit and just speak a little bit about business, because we've had conversations about it before, and I really liked your answers. So, um,
Yeah.
do you enjoy being a leader of a business?
Um, I enjoy empowering people. I enjoy unearthing talent that they never knew they had, because I see it. Yeah, I truly enjoy that. Like I really enjoy empowering people. And the only way to do that is to be the leader in it. Um, I don't know whether I'm naturally born as a leader. But I've always put myself in front of doing a lot of things. Like to be honest, the first event that I ever organized was prom.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I organized it was because I was had talking to my friends saying that, oh, prom this year is going to be really shit. And a friend of mine said like, oh, you're talking so much, why don't you organize it? And I was like, all right, I'll do it, you know? And but yeah, but I find joy in so many people from Livescape that s- many of them started out as interns, and then now they run multi-billion dollar um, 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 uh, production for our events. Next week we have an event on a cruise ship, and one of the people that's leading the production is a girl called Clarice, who was in our finance team. She was a finance junior girl, right? But eventually, when having a conversation with her and learning, and she was fascinated about production,
Mm-hmm.
and gave her the chance to give it a go, right? And she screwed up a couple of times, you know, but but then you can see it, and continue to get her to do it, and she's a superstar in the company now, you know. Yeah, and I enjoy doing that.
That's awesome. And what is your approach, say, with someone like Clarice who wants to completely change their role? Like, what is your approach to giving someone that opportunity?
um I would ask them, would you do it for free? And if they say yes, then I'll say okay. So they would probably have to work 70% of their time doing what they normally do, and then 30% they start taking on something, an aspect of it, right? And then from there we see what's the how well they do. And then when another project comes around, we throw them on the deep end. Once we've seen that we feel that they can do it, then we say, all right, there's this project, here you go. You run the thing. Um, we have all the resources and information, and you've seen your colleagues at it. If you have a question, you ask, right? And then after that, I do checks on them once every 2 weeks and stuff like that. Just more of a health check, how they're doing. And the thing about Livescape is that no one is afraid to ask, no matter how stupid it may sound. So that helps, right? and I think the person that asks the most dumbest questions in the company is me,
Yes, sir.
right? So I think people see that and go, okay, this guy asks a lot of dumb questions, so it's okay if I ask some dumb questions too, right? Um, but yeah, but then that's probably how that's how we'd probably do it.
That's interesting. And you mentioned dumb questions there. But have you always been that way? Because I feel like asking dumb questions is kind of like you've got your ego in check and you comfortable enough to like look stupid. But has that
Mm.
always been the case, or have you learned that over time?
I've learned it over time. So back in the day, when I first started Livescape, I started with friends, which in hindsight is a big mistake,
Yes, sir.
right? So you start with friends, they're your friends, but then it's difficult to have these sort of difficult conversations or trying to get your friends to make sure that they become professional when you're running an event and stuff like that. And I wanted my friends to like me despite we were colleagues and we were working towards things, right? So eventually, I found out that our growth, we had an opportunity and we weren't growing as fast as I'd like to in order for us to capture that opportunity. So I actually went completely 360 and I became an iron fist, you know? And when I did that, um, it got things moving very quickly, but it was also because everybody was just scared,
Yeah.
right? And we did move fast, but then I came to a realization that the reason why I started this company was because I was in that ice cream truck and I saw thousands and thousands of people having the time of their lives, and I was like, I want to know how it feels to be the person who actually did it.
Yeah.
And I felt that the team at that point were not feeling the same thing as myself, of what I wanted to feel, because I wasn't feeling it, right?
Yeah.
And so I assumed that. So then I learned to try to take it a bit slow, not put everything on me. Be vulnerable, share your worries, share your concerns, share your fears with the team, and then see how you go from there. And it's been one of the best decisions I've ever made, because I can and to my colleagues, they also go, "Oh shit, this guy's not superhuman." He also has concerns or worries and stuff like that, and that helps, right? And eventually we do become friends, right? Become friends because everyone's honest with each other, and no one's afraid to admit if they've made a mistake, because they know that they're not going to get penalized for it, as long as they learn and they continue to improve, right? So I think my management style has changed a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. And what advice would you give to someone who wants to become an entrepreneur?
The first question is to ask yourself, why do you want to become an entrepreneur? If you want to be an entrepreneur because half the people in your LinkedIn says entrepreneur and you think it's cool, then not. If you are going, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur because I can make a lot of money and I can be in control of my own time. No, don't be an entrepreneur. That's a hustler, right? So that's, go and be a hustler, right? Um, if you feel that you have the chops to solve a problem that is a big gap in the market that you think is, then you can then say, okay, I aspire to be one. And you never know when you're an entrepreneur until somebody calls you an entrepreneur, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
If you keep saying I'm an entrepreneur, you're not. Yeah. Yeah. You aspire to be one. You're trying. You know. Um. Um. And eventually, when people call you entrepreneur, or you do an interview, and then you see in the paper, and they say, "Hey, oh, this person's an entrepreneur," then you're like, "Oh shit, okay." You know.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah.
No, I like that. And where would you like AAA to be in 5 years?
Hmm. So if I can help the independent event promoter down the street who has a few local artists that they want to come up with a gig and they're able to use all access to interact and connect with their fans and make sure that they get a full house for their event, right? All the way to a music festival in Japan that's able to use these fan engagement tools, um, to then another independent music festival or concert in Thailand who saw that this particular artist has really high engagement with their fans and books that artist to come for that event, right? Yeah, that's what I want. I want to see everybody solving their biggest challenges and biggest worries in live entertainment with blockchain technology, not knowing that they're using blockchain technology,
Yeah.
without having to depend on the Facebook and Instagram overlords, tech overlords, without having to be worried of being muscled out by AEG and Live Nation, and giving everybody a run for their money. Uh, um, um, and if we're in an environment where everybody wins, um, yeah, that's all I want,
Awesome.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And before I end every conversation, I ask my guests if they have a question for me.
There you go. Okay. Um, uh, have you ever thought of being an entrepreneur?
Yes. I asked like the stages you went through and sort of the questions you ask yourself. I ask myself those questions all the time. I definitely like the idea of being an entrepreneur, and similar to you in terms of like in the workplace and stuff. Like I'm asking like, why aren't we moving faster? Why don't we do it this way? And I just feel like things are done wrong, and that's like most of my
Mm,
employment history has been that sort of experience.
yeah.
Um, but I feel like I'm searching for the right problem to solve.
Mm,
And some people say like it sort of comes to you, and others are like just start and it'll sort of evolve into that problem. Um, and so yeah, I think the reason why I started this podcast too was like a fear of starting and getting comfortable with it and understanding my sort of weaknesses. And so yes, I definitely want to become an entrepreneur, but I still feel like I've got a bit of work to do, but one of them is just sort of starting to solve a problem and then seeing what happens. And even if that fails, I mean, that's also lessons in itself, and you can
yeah,
start again and take those lessons into the next problem that you're trying to solve. But
yeah.
yeah, short
Got
answer
it.
is yes.
Okay, okay. Well, hey, if you need any tips or advice, you know who to call.
Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it. And well, thank you for joining me today, Iqbal. I really appreciate it. If people want to find out more about yourself, AAA or Livescape, where can they do so?
Just go to all-access.io, or you could look for me at LinkedIn at Iqbal Ameer. That's IQBALAMEER.
Awesome. Thanks again, Iqbal. Chat soon.
All right.
Thanks for listening. I really appreciate you making it all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed the episode. One more quick reminder before you go. I have a weekly newsletter by the same name, Another Excuse, where I cover 4 topics: something that has changed my perception, a tool that could be useful to you, content that is actually worth consuming, and a concept that I try break down and explain. If this sounds of any interest to you and you need a kick up the arse, then you can subscribe at the link below. Thanks for joining me again, and I'll see you next week.